Morning.
Morning.
How's everyone doing? My name is Paul Wiedefeld. I'm the chairman of the Maryland Transportation Authority Board. I hereby call the meeting of the MDTA Board to order at 9 a.m. This morning, we're having our meeting in person at MDTA headquarters, and in accordance with the live streaming law, this meeting is being live streamed on MDTA Board webpage. I would like to say welcome to the members and staff who are with us today. And for the record, I would like to state that member Dante Carroll will be attending today's meeting via conference call, and member Lee Gaines is unable to join us this morning. Member Carroll, are you there?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Good morning, sir. As a reminder, I ask anyone who is in the room with us this morning to refrain from speaking unless you are presenting or answering a question to avoid background noise on the live stream. There are no members of the public, no elected officials, and no media who have pre-registered to comment at this morning's meeting. Correct? Okay. For those who are watching this meeting via the live stream, we have posted the materials for today's meeting on the MDTA Board webpage so that you can follow along if you would like. We now begin today's agenda with agenda item number 1, which is the approval of the open session meeting minutes of August 31st.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. The second agenda item is a contract award for sludge debris removal from Fort McHenry Tunnel and one for janitorial services at the John F. Kennedy Highway and Thomas Hayden Bridge. Mr. Davis?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, members. For the record, my name is Jeff Davis from the Division of Procurement. And as Secretary said, we are bringing 2 contracts for award. The first one is the sludge debris removal for the Fort McHenry Tunnel. We are looking to seeking approval to execute this contract. The purpose of this contract is to provide services for the removal and disposal of liquids, sludge, and debris from 4 wet wells located at the Fort McHenry Tunnel, Baltimore City, Maryland, to reduce the amount of sediment that leaks into the bay to help avert flooding. The contract includes all labor, transportation, and services necessary for adequate performance in accordance with all applicable local, state, and federal regulations pertaining to workers' protections and protection of the environment. We received 5 bids. The lowest bid was from the Julian Companies Incorporated, and for a 3-year contract with 1 2-year renewal option. The total amount of their bid was $548,475. This is a new vendor for the MDTA, but through reviewing their references and research on the vendor, they have done work for VDOT, Virginia Beach, PG County, and Baltimore City. The closest project to what we're doing here was debris removal in Virginia Beach. No protests or anything were filed. Any questions?
Any questions?
I noticed when I reviewed it that the bids were very, very far apart as far as actually after the first 2 bids. Was there any, discretion as far as, or discussion, I guess?
So when you look at the 2 bids that were actually closest to our original estimate was actually the first and second bidder.
Right.
Our original estimate for the contract was around $760,000.
Right.
And we verified that the line items were acceptable and did not, from our evaluation, did not appear to be unbalanced, and they had a positive reference checks. So we determined that the 3 other bids were actually much higher than we would have expected for this work.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on. This is janitorial services for the John F. Kennedy and Thomas J. Hayden facilities. We generally combine those 2 facilities because of their location to each other. This is a community services contract, so that is our Maryland Works program here in the state. So this is a preferred provider contract to provide comprehensive janitorial services, including supervision, supplies, labor, and equipment at the JFK and Hayden facilities. Laos Cleaning Services was awarded the contract through the Pricing and Selection Committee of Maryland Works. and they have a long-standing history with us in our agency. And I'm just pulling up the numbers, please forgive me. It was a 5-year contract. Well, it's 3 years with 2-year renewal option for a total of $2,160,885.55. This being a preferred provider contract, there was no opportunity for MBE or VSBE on this contract, and there was no bid protests because of the nature of this procurement.
Any questions?
How does this compare to previous years? Does it seem like it's on par?
Yes. So one of the things that the Pricing and Selection Committee does, we don't really have, they tell us what the services are going to cost, but they base them on industry standards. And the prices have crept up slightly over the years, we've noticed, but one big part of that was legislation to require many of the staffers to get benefits and health insurance doing these contracts. But this is in line with what they would be charging any other similarly sized facilities.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. The third agenda item is fiscal year '23 operating budget comparison. Mr. Brown?
Good morning. For the record, my name is Jeffrey Brown, Budget Director of the MDTA, and I'm here today to provide an update to the full year performance to budget for fiscal 2023. As of June 30th, 2023, we had spent 96% of the budget compared to a target of 100%, which basically puts us right on budget. All objects were at or below the targeted spending levels except for Object 6 and 13. Object 6 was fuel and utilities, which was at 110%, due in part to payment of delayed receipt for fiscal 2022 utility invoices. Object 13, fixed charges, was above budget at 148%, primarily due to insurance premium increases. Moving on to some additional detail, Object 1 and 2, salaries and wages, were at the targeted spending levels of 96%. Communications, Object 3 was at an 83% spend rate due to two reasons. Telecommunications 303, which was at 56%, primarily attributable to employee vacancies, and also the state-paid telecommunications, which is essentially the state radio invoice, which came in under budget by 100,000. Object 4, travel, was at 73% spend, as we still do not see spending rebounding to pre-COVID levels. Fuel and utilities, Object 6, was mentioned above at 110%. Object 7, vehicle operations and maintenance, was below budget at 75%. This was due to delays in orders for vehicles in fiscal 2023, which is going to be transferred to fiscal 2024. Contractual services, Object 8, was at a 99% spend rate, which is right at budget, but some of the key variances within that object are advertising at 65%. This is due to reduced activity and lower than anticipated contractual renewal costs. Building repairs and maintenance was at a 69% spend. This was due to the reduced cost for dehumidification of the Bay Bridge and transfer of sludge removal costs to the next year. Education and training was below budget at 55%. This is due to reduced career development program activity for the year. And management studies had a savings as it was at a 34% spend rate, which we anticipated towards the end of the year, as most of this activity will shift to fiscal 2024. The one key area above budget was Easy Pass Service Center costs at 118% spend. This was due to costs associated with the customer assistance plan and an understated fiscal 2022 accrual, which drove this variance. Moving on to Object 9, which was at a 72% spend rate. The biggest area was roadway maintenance materials, Object 905, at 66% spend rate. This is due to increased construction, which reduced the need for maintenance, and due to employee vacancies. Uniforms and ammunition were both below budget, and this was due to shipping delays. And salt, as expected, was well below due to the mild winter. Replacement equipment was at a 76% spend with Object 10, and that was driven by other replacement equipment, Object 1099. This was due to, which was at a 72% spend, and this was due to deferral of police gym equipment. Object 11 was at a 40% spend. The driver was additional maintenance and building equipment, Object 1113 at a 9% spend. This was due to expenses for heavy truck delivery being shifted to fiscal 2024. There was a delay due to the auto shop renovation that was undergoing. Finally, fixed objects, Object 13, as mentioned above, was above budget 148%. This is due to, again, mentioned before, the increase of the bridges and tunnels liability insurance premium. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions at this time.
Any questions for Mr. Burke? Yes, sir.
With regard to the labor variance, so we were 96%, it was, so 96% spent for salaries and wages. How much was it under due to vacancies and not filling the open positions?
Really, entirely due to the vacancies. The reason why it wasn't more under is because we did have some higher burden costs coming through due to leave expenses and things of that nature. I think we had a whole major discussion about burden, fringe, and all that stuff. So the main driver really of the underspend is the vacancies. It was mitigated, I mean, not as under as I was originally expecting due to some burden expenses.
Any other questions?
Yes, for the fuel and utilities, is that something that can be avoided in the next year, the invoice issue?
Yeah, it should be. Obviously, I mean, this is kind of a result of all the stuff around the vacancies and COVID issues. You know, people weren't, I don't think as a top, and there were vacancies and stuff, and so there was maybe not as tight as processes, and a bunch of stuff got delayed, not necessarily on our part either. Some invoices just didn't come through, and they were delayed from the utilities themselves. So that drove a lot of it as well. So I think that's, gone away in terms of we know to reach out a little bit, make sure that we're getting the bills in a timely manner and things of that nature. So yeah, we anticipate that's a one-time effect.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Sneed, if I could ask you one. Just with the work that you do in Anne Arundel County, anything out of the ordinary here that you see?
No, and vehicle delays are also a problem with the county as well, delivery. There have been backups at manufacturers, at plants in Detroit and other manufacturers in the Midwest, so that's pretty common, the vehicle delays, and it does become costly. Because what happens is you end up using older vehicles and the maintenance cost is higher, and that has an impact, kind of like a cascading effect on your budget. I'm not sure if that happened to you all.
Well, we did have a big purchase recently too, so that kind of mitigated some of it because we got newer vehicles in place and they're under warranty and things of that nature.
Okay, that's good.
Just checking. Thank you. Great, thank you, Mr. Brown. The fourth agenda item is the fiscal year 2023 capital budget comparison. Ms. Stubb.
Good morning. For the record, I'm Jennifer Stump, the Assistant Capital Program Manager. Today I'm presenting the fourth quarter review of the fiscal year 2023 capital budget versus the actual spending as outlined in the fiscal year 2023 to 2028 draft CTP. This information was presented to the Finance Committee on September 14th. As of June 30th, 2023, 81.2% of the fiscal year 23 $556 million budget was spent as compared to the targeted spending level of 100%. Actual spending through the fourth quarter was $451.7 million. 11 of the 91 projects budgeted in the fiscal year 23 draft CTP were within acceptable spending limits of 90 to 110%, plus or minus 10% of the 100% target. This variation is decreased from the 25% variation reported for the first, second, and third quarters because all allocations, accruals, and fiscal year 2023 invoices have been posted. Attachment A details 10 projects that were budgeted for more than $11 million each in fiscal year 2023. Actual spending through the fourth quarter on these 10 projects was $323.2 million. 4 of these 10 projects are part of the I-95 ETL North Med Extension group of 26 projects. This concludes the quarterly report. If there are any questions or concerns?
Questions or concern or from the finance committee? Okay, thank you so much. Agenda item number 5 is an updated quarterly update in traffic revenue. Traffic and revenue. Ms. Sharpless?
Second. Okay, that's one. Okay, sorry about that. So this forecast is the conclusion of fiscal year '23. So starting off in your memo, and then we'll jump over to some tables that I think is easier to follow. But if you look at the table, first we're looking at transactions, and then we're looking at revenue. And so when we compare actuals from FY '22 to '23, you can see that we are down 6.7 million transactions, or 4%. On the revenue side, that's being down 26.9 million, or 3.3%. That's all tied into the backlog, right? Because FY '22 was higher than normal. '23 is coming closer to normal, although we were still mailing out a lot of video toll notices during that time period, where in FY '22, it was the Easy Pass transactions that we had caught up. So that's what's causing that. And we always stress, like, what's most important is where are we in relation to our forecast, because that's what we set all of our spending plans, our operating budget, our capital budget based on. And so from a forecast perspective, we were 6.5 million transactions ahead, or 4.2%. And on a revenue side, we were nearly 61 million ahead, or 8.5%. In a second, we'll talk about some of that. And one of the things that we'll focus on is whether or not it was a one-time gain in the financial forecast, or whether that increase you will see in future forecasts or not. So with that, let's go down to some of the attachments. So begin with attachment A. There's that at the very top. There's the $61 million that I was just talking about. We go down to attachment B. You see you just see revenue broken out by Easy Pass, pay-by-plate, video, and administrative. And then attachment C is where we explain the $61 million. So starting off with Easy Pass, you can see that the different items, they're grouped together. So on the Easy Pass side, you have transactions higher than forecasted. That's a one-time piece, as well as there's a timing difference. So we used to always assume a 10-day lag between the date of the transactions and when it was posted to a customer's account. That had been our long-standing history. Under the new contracts, that lag is no longer 10 days. It's closer to 1 or 2 days. So the forecast previously assumed that lag, and we're not experiencing that. Now, next year's forecast, we're not going to assume a 10-day lag. So that's why this lag is a one-time gain. We're going to adjust future forecasts to a shorter lag time period. Now, the daily average revenue higher than forecast, that is ongoing. So that has to do with the composition of traffic. It ends up being like higher out of state, higher commercial, fewer commuters. That's what's causing the average toll rate to increase. It's items like that. So pay by plate was higher than forecast, it's just growing, you know. It was a brand-new way for customers to pay. Those that just did not want an Easy Pass, did not want to have that prepaid balance. If you recall, it's license plate based. Customers put a credit card on the account. When they travel, we charge their credit card for that trip and only that trip at a lower rate than what a video toll would be. And so, you know, anything that's new, it takes time to grow. And so it was really slow, and it's just picking up, and that's why it was higher than forecast. On the video toll side, that's still really complicated for us, right, because of dealing with the backlog and escalations and all of that. So we have the average toll rate is lower than forecasted, so exact opposite of Easy Pass. So we're going to see that going forward. So that means that video tolling is largely two-axle vehicles. Then we have the collection rate is lower than forecast. Part of that was some assumptions in the forecast, you know, over a year ago, so call it 18 months ago, with when accounts would be escalated to MVA and CCU. We have been doing that for some time now, and accounts have been escalated. We just started off doing it later than we originally had planned when this forecast was put together. We implemented several notices, you know, additional courtesy letters, going out to customers to, you know, let them know that, you know, you still owe this toll, these are the actions that'll be taken. So there was a lot of proactive steps that were taken before we started escalating, and that pushed the escalation process back, but those decisions were made after this forecast was prepared. And then we have, we mailed a larger volume of transactions than were forecasted. So we were able to get the notices out quicker than what originally thought. And then administrative revenue was slightly higher than what we expected. So collectively, each one of those, you know, puts and takes nets out to, you know, $60 million being over the forecast. Okay, any questions on how we ended the year?
Any questions?
Chairman, you know, Deb, maybe in looking at this, where do you see, like, I know with the main tolls as far as
Sorry, the what
tolls, a bridge, whatever, where do you see ETLs as far as past revenue projections versus what the current is?
Let me make sure I heard the question. That the vents right here in my ear, so it's a little hard to hear.
Okay.
So are you asking how are the ETLs doing?
Yeah, in other words, prior to COVID,
Right.
there was obviously one number that you always projected, and where we're caught up today, or passing the amounts that we have collected. Where is ETL in regards to prior to COVID and what it is today?
So it's
I mean, you can't.
yeah, it's slightly down. The ICC and ETLs, you know, they're congestion managed facilities.
Right.
They're still within their forecast. You know, if you recall, the ETLs are part of the larger I-95 JFK facility.
Correct.
Right, and so, you know, we have less backups on I-95, which impacts the ETL slightly, but there's still a really strong desire to use the ETLs. Many customers perceive express toll lanes as safer. You know, usually you don't have trucks in there. They are a congestion management tool because highways can't keep getting wider and wider and wider. So they provide an option, and so they're fulfilling the objectives that we've always had for the ETLs.
Great. Thank you.
So, on that same line, have we noticed, even though the levels are getting close to pre-pandemic or at pre-pandemic, the shift in time of when that's occurring in terms of I mean, so for instance, because that could impact obviously the congestion portion of when people would choose, in effect, to manage lanes.
Somewhat,
Somewhat,
you
okay.
know, but the desire to use the express lanes, you'll see traffic in those lanes when there is not a backup on 95. And so that shifting, right, it's still causing people to use the ETLs for the other benefits that, you know, they feel they receive by doing so. And we are back to pre-COVID levels. I think we've been working on an updated traffic and revenue forecast. You're going to see that in the coming months. And if you remember, commercial rebounded very quickly. You know, it took a little bit more time for the two-passenger vehicles to come back. So they have come back. The part that we're working on is when you compare traffic to, say, this year to 2019, right? That's just one comparison. The other comparison that you need to do is saying pre-COVID, where did we think 23 was going to be? It's not just comparing it to 19, because 19 was assumed to grow. And so we're largely back from pre-COVID levels. Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, Terry. Agenda item number 6, major projects, quarterly update.
All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Jim Harkness, Chief Engineer for Maryland Transportation Authority. So today we'll be going through my quarterly update of the major projects, capital projects over $40 million. Our first project is the replacement of the electronic toll collection, so third gen. The vendor CAPSH is supporting several key MDTA initiatives at this point, specifically the TRI protocol, working at the MDTA AET zones as well as the BHT Plaza, and that's equipment procurement, deployment, tuning, and testing for the 3 different transponder protocols. They're also supporting MDTA in some of our capital projects, including on the ETLs, the upcoming portion of the ETLs with the new toll zones, and also will be supporting us on the BHT for the project that will remove the traditional toll plaza there. Okay. Move on to the next project, NB 543, which is the replacement of the nice Middleton Bridge. Also talk about the campus replacement there as well. So that project has continued with demolition of the existing low-level bents and piers of the old bridge, and then of course taking those materials and making artificial reefs with that material. We are currently working with the design builder for a stream restoration project as part of this overall bridge project. And we are continuing with the construction of the new administration building down at the campus, as well as, which is also the police building. The contractor is working on the exterior and interior fittings for those, and we believe that we should be able to move in by November of this year into that building. The contractor will continue with the demolition of the existing bridge in the next 6 months. Okay. Move on to the next project, FT 2651, which is the ventilations improvements at the Fort McHenry Tunnel. This project upgrades the original fan system so that we can try to combat a 100-megawatt fire in the tunnel, by taking the existing fan components and the control system and upgrading those. There are 48 fans for the tunnel system, 24 on each end in the two vent buildings. At this point, we have 32 fans that have been rehabilitated and placed back into service. The remaining 16 are currently all locked out and under rehab. So this contract is still looking for completion in April of next year. Okay. Our next project is one of the ETL projects. It's KH 3009, which is the ETL extension from 43 to south of Maryland 152. We are widening the road to construct the two ETL lanes there. We also are replacing Raphael Road Bridge. Currently, the contractor has been working on retaining walls, erecting the MSE walls and all the associated backfill with those. At Structure 1, which is the bridge over the big gunpowder, they have moved on to starting demolition where they can on Stage 2 of the bridge. So Stage 1, they've are working up on tying up the loose ends on that new portion of the bridge that they constructed, and they're already starting demolition on the existing bridge where they can. We're still maintaining traffic, obviously, on it, so they're just getting at what they can. Raphael Road, as we know, is open to traffic, so they're complete there. That's Structure 2. Structure 3 is the bridge over the Little Gunpowder, and they have recently installed some noise barrier panels on that bridge, and you'll see them if you drive past. They're clear panels that have been installed on that bridge as part of the adjacent noise barrier. So our studies told us we needed to have noise attenuation that extended across the bridge, so we have some panels that are some clear panels that are up on that bridge. The contractor has also continued with installing a storm drain system along the right side of the roadway there. They've completed their second underground stormwater storage system, so that has been tested and accepted. They are working on grading, and they're also doing some paving. They anticipate a construction or a traffic switch at the end of October, beginning of November, in order to get that traffic onto that Structure 1, make that switch and really start going on at the existing portion of that bridge. Okay, that's what I had for that one. Then we can move on to another one of the ETL projects. That's KH 3019, which is the Maryland 152 interchange reconstruction. This meets up with the KH 3009 project and continues those two ETL lanes and provides an interchange for those managed lanes. At the bridge over Maryland 152, they are working in the center of that bridge, so they're working in Phase 2. They've placed steel there. They have another structure, the mainline I-95 bridge over Winter's Run, so they're also working there. They've widened that bridge, and they're kind of putting on some of the just kind of tying the loose ends there. They have some retaining walls near the Maryland 152, which we saw on our visit. So they've wrapped up one of those, and they've moved to the other side of Maryland 152, and they are working on that large retaining wall. Contractor is doing other miscellaneous things like permanent light pole foundations. They're installing some of the overhead sign structures, and they've also done some paving and opened a portion of that roundabout on the exit ramp from northbound 95. So if you take that exit, you'll pass through a portion of the future roundabout. All right. Next project, we'll move a little bit further up the road on 95. This is I-95 at Belvedere. This design build project proposes to construct a partial cloverleaf interchange at Belvedere Road. It's a new interchange where one does not exist today. That project will support ongoing and planned economic development in Cecil County and allows for direct access to Belvedere Road from I-95. The design build team has been working and continues to work through the environmental permitting agency comments on our rough grading package, as well as our joint permit application package for the early work. There's a resubmittal in the next week on that, and we believe that we should have agency approval by November, which would allow the contractor to hopefully start working just after Thanksgiving. We are working with York Building Products as well as Cecil County on the maintenance of traffic on Belvedere Road. Some of the work on the permit side has recently made us have to alter the plans a little bit. So we are working with our stakeholders to implement a single lane, a one-lane maintenance of traffic where we would have a temporary signal. And that would allow the contractor to avoid impacts to the swamp pink, which is the endangered plant that we're dealing with here at this site. And the single lane allows them to stay between the two wetland areas where the plants are found. So that was a little bit of a change. So we're working closely with York Building Products in Cecil County to iron out those details and get that messaging out to the public. That's all I had for that project. Okay. Move down to HT 2709, which is the envelope and switchgear replacements at the BHT vent buildings. So the envelope replacements are for the Canton and Fairfield vent buildings, both vent buildings. These buildings house the fans and the vent system, as well as the power components that power the electrical systems through the tunnel. So that power is the switchgear, and that's we're replacing that as well. And so, like I said, that powers the vent fans as well as the other electrical systems through the tunnel. The contractor is currently in the process of submitting their long lead items. So over the past couple of years, electrical items have become really long lead items, and these master control centers and these switch gears are very unique items, and so they're one-offs, so they have a long lead, so they're working on getting that out and getting in front of that now, as well as the precast panels that we have to replace the exterior of the buildings themselves. Those are also long lead items. We have communication tenants on the roof, so we have 90% of those are already relocated and on temporary units that they can adjust, and our contractor can work around them. We have an abatement subcontractor in the buildings working, abating the asbestos, and we also have electrical contractors sort of doing prep work to get the buildings ready for running the new power systems. All right, that was all the projects that we had in construction, and now that we have two in procurement. So the first one is KB 3005. That's the
Jim, I'm sorry, did you
yeah.
jump over the eastbound Bay Bridge deck replacement project?
Yes, I did. I'm sorry. Thank you, Paul. Forgot that. Right. So eastbound Reed Deck, phase one. That is our CMAR project. That is the project where we'll be replacing a portion of the eastbound deck at this time. We have package one is with the contractor and under construction. They are working on their casting yard here in the harbor, and that they have to build a trestle in order to get the barges in and get these panels out. They've got their panels set. They're looking to start casting their panels in mid-October. So that activity will start to take place. They'll start to get their store of panels up. At this time, out on the bridge, they have their all their work platforms set up and they have been working on the truss strengthening, making sure that the steel is ready to receive the new deck panels. So that work is underway. They're progressing on that so that they can come back in the winter with the first panel replacements and then work behind that truss strengthening and move along that way. We also have, we have one package with them, as I said. We have a second package that's under development. That is not yet ready for pricing by the contractor, but we are nearing that point. So that we're getting to the point where we're establishing the MBE goals, et cetera, on that contract. Okay. Thanks again, Paul. As I said, the next project that I wanted to cover was KB 3005, which is the first one that we have in procurement, I-695 subgrade improvements at Bear Creek. This project will address ongoing settlement and deterioration of I-695 mainline pavement. We also have structural issues out there on some of the bridges, so we have back wall repairs that will be going on 3 separate bridges out there. We had a bid opening for this project last month, and so we had very good bids and a good contractor. So we will be bringing this project to Capital Committee next month, and so hopefully to board also next month. As part of this project, we have some traffic impacts. So part of our plan is to have public outreach with the community. So we'll be hosting 2 open houses this fall, and we have been coordinating with the port and with Trade Point Atlantic on this project. So we will be doing that again, as we understand some folks have changed at Trade Point, so we've got to reach back out to them and again coordinate. They're also doing construction work around this same project area on the road systems around their area, so we just have to get back and make sure everything is still good on our impacts, because we have a ramp closure on each side of the beltway that we have to put into effect, and we coordinated sort of the new and associated movements with them, and we have the lane, where we're shifting traffic onto inner loop in order to do work on the outer loop, and vice versa. So we will continue messaging all that information out as we get closer to construction. Okay, next project in procurement is HB 3001. This is the cleaning and painting of the Hatem Bridge. The Hatem Bridge, it carries US 40 over the Susquehanna River between Hartford and Cecil County. It has a steel superstructure for the bridge portions, and that was built in 1938. So Hatem Bridge was last fully painted in 1989. There was a partial painting project in 2012, but recent inspections have found that the paint system is failing, and we also have signs of rust with some deterioration on that steel. So this project includes the coating system, the painting, as well as those structural rehabilitation. This project advertised back at the beginning of August, and we expect bid opening in the next few weeks. So you'll be seeing this at an upcoming Capitol and board meeting in the next few months. We would anticipate a current schedule that we would have an NTP in February or March, hopefully. Okay, and my last 2 projects are still in design. We have KH 3020, again, a part of the ETL program. This is an extension from Maryland 24 to Bynum Run, which is south of the next interchange, Maryland 543. It's approximately a 2-mile project. It transitions from the full ETL section of 2 ETL lanes and 3 general purpose lanes back down to just 3 general purpose lanes. In addition to the widening, we're also constructing a noise wall in this section. We have the PSE and E documents, the final documents. We are working with MDE to get the final stormwater management approval. We anticipate, and we believe, based on recent conversations, we'll have their approval by the end of October, which will allow us to then submit to procurement. We anticipate advertising this by early next year, and then hopefully have an NTP for construction in late spring of next year. And my final project is also part of the ETL program, KH 3021. This is the replacement of the Maryland 24 interchange. So this project reconfigures that interchange to provide ETL access from the south, so an interchange with the ETL system, as well as reconfiguring the way the existing Maryland 24 interchange is constructed. We're going to essentially try to provide better general purpose access, as well as having the, being able to make room for that express toll lane ramp. At this point, in design, we are looking for advertising in March, April, so spring of next year, and I would expect that we could issue NTP in fall of next year.
Thank you, Jim. Very comprehensive. Any questions or Harris?
I have real quick. First of all, thank you for all the good work you do
Thanks.
in your role at MDTA. The other question I have, I'm glad that we're putting sound barriers on the little gunpowder. I'll say that. And the master plan, overall, like a master plan. Is there a master plan? Obviously, when we say, for example, like 152 and 24 park and ride with the growth in Harford County, I'm sure that that was all anticipated to accommodate more traffic or more parking,
Yes.
I would say, right?
Right. Yeah.
And the other question I have, as far as, is there a master plan? We're talking about one of the challenges, moving forward with, like in the commercial arena, with electronic vehicles having places to park vehicles and charge and all that. Is there any part of that in part of our planning going forward?
Yes. All right. So
And I don't want to take, I can circle
okay.
back with you on that.
I mean, I think, I'll touch on it briefly then. We do have another project. There is, the plan, the existing parking ride was obviously taken out of service. We saw that on our visit last March, right? We were standing in that existing parking ride at 152. So we do have a plan to relocate it at that roundabout that I talked about being constructed, just on the other side of the ramp. So there is a plan for a new parking ride there to replace the one that we took out of service. We had worked with the community and folks during design. They didn't demand a temporary location, so because we had opened the one up at 24,924, that was sufficient to meet the demand at the time. So we don't have a temporary space that replaced it, but we do have a permanent replacement for that park and ride. And as part of our efforts with electrification, we are making, we're providing the infrastructure for providing electric vehicle charging stations. So we're not actually providing them at this point. Part of that has to do with the ownership of those parking rides going to SHA. Once we constructed, like at 92424, we had an agreement. We handed operations of that over to SHA. We'll do the same here. And I know at one point they were working through issues with Federal Highway about providing electric vehicle charging stations. So I know there's a contract that can do that. We kind of envision it as we're kind of putting in a lot of the infrastructure to make it easy to fit those stations once they are available.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions?
Just one question related to the HB 3001 for the Hatem Bridge. So I presume in many cases the painting and facility structure, it falls into our repair and maintenance budget versus a capital budget. It sounds like this has gotten to the point where there's some structural improvement as well. So is there anything we would have done differently or can do differently to make sure it doesn't get to this point where there's a major capital project to have to rehabilitate it versus getting to painting it or doing what we have to do in advance? Or is this just an anomaly?
I think the the inspections, you know, eventually revealed this to us. We have seen it progressing, and it's kind of part of the program management is figuring out at what point do we have a whole lot of task order work to go out and address those, or do we kind of look at the whole system and try to address both at one time? So when you remove the existing paint system, that allows you to get in and work on these structural repairs. So sometimes it's a little bit of a better approach to sort of work in with this coating where you're removing it, being able to address all and see all the steel issues under the coating, and then fix them, and then put the new coating back on, if that makes sense. We do you know, we do address structural issues as we go, but then you're kind of just doing portions of it, and you don't really know what's underneath the coating all that well. So getting that coating off of there really kind of tells the whole story for you.
Quick question, thank you for your report. And this might be more for finance. Is there a realized ROI for the 95 ETL projects where they pay for themselves over time with the extension of the length of the ETLs? That might be a finance question.
That might be a better
for the next meeting, maybe.
Finance question. I mean, yeah, I'm sure we can get back to you and get you some information on that.
And then secondly, with the deck replacement, that has to move forward regardless of the Tier 2 study going on? This is an urgent
Good question,
deck
yeah.
replacement.
Yeah. So we performed a life cycle study a few years back now, which identified this as a critical need for the eastbound deck. I think this deck is 40 years old. We programmed it in phases, so that was called phase one. There are phases to it because it's a 4-mile bridge. So we're attacking this in 4 separate phases. And we attacked the one that had the worst condition rating first. So that's why we identified the section that we did. And so at the time that we put all this into place, we didn't have the study. And so as that's come along, we're obviously working on both, but having to advance this in order to maintain the condition of that bridge because it is just a study and we don't know the eventual outcome. So at this point, we are preparing and carrying out the projects that we need to do in order to keep that bridge in good state of repair.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Jim, just one. Kind of a tougher one, but are there any of these projects, either from a budget perspective or from a schedule perspective, that you want to flag as as you manage these projects that we may not stay within this budget or hit this schedule to within some reasonable amount?
I think.
Concern you?
Oh, sorry.
No, just any concern you that we should be aware of. That's all.
I'm not concerned yet, but the obviously the big projects on the ETL system, we've put out a lot of projects already. We've been really fortunate to have really good contractor interest, and therefore really received really competitive bids on our projects, even through the past few years with the struggles on that. We've adjusted our estimates, of course, as best we know, but we've seemed to still garnered really good competition out there. But of course, we have 2 big ones still in design that kind of I'm just unsure about how the bidding environment will be when we get out in the next 3 to 6 months on those. So that one I'm keeping my eye on, but because we've had good bids in the program, we've been able to kind of have some money to account for these cost increases, and also, in case the costs go up, we have some funds. So I'm not worried from the funding side on that. And then, from the schedule side, the 2 ETL projects, the interchange and the long 6 mile stretch, you know, we're working very closely with those contractors, just keeping them on task, and you know, working with our toll vendor, making sure that coordination goes smoothly, because that's critical, and making sure that there's enough time for them. So those are the two that I'm watching closely, and of course Bay Bridge. We want to make sure we you know, treat that one with as much tender loving care as we can, and so making sure that contractor delivers a quality bridge deck replacement. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything else? Okay, very good, thank you, Jim. All right, agenda item number 7, update on information technology, major projects.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. How are you this morning?
Good, sir.
Good morning to the board. Great to see everyone. For the record, my name is David Goldsboro. I am Director of Information Technology for the Transportation Authority. The purpose of this presentation and memorandum is to provide a quarterly update to the board on MDTA's Division of Information Technology and our major initiatives. As of September 28th, the Division of Information Technology maintains an active portfolio of 21 projects. Now we've added an additional project that I will get into, and also continued support of our 3rd generation tolling system, also known as 3G. The project that was introduced was for health and safety. It's in the portfolio below, and I will be reporting on the status of it, but it essentially is a clearinghouse for our drivers that hold a commercial driver's license. I believe what it does is it does some handshaking with MVA and another public-facing system that tracks if there's violations for drivers that have a CDL. Our health and safety office would be able to do a lookup for that and then put it back into our systems for tracking purposes. We're looking to do that inside of our HR Central system, which is built on Salesforce. I was really happy that we could do that in-house. So I will get into that just from a project status perspective in just a moment. We are still working on creating a business intelligence, also known as BI reports, to support the QA functions for the KPI portion of the contract for 3G. Right now we're focused on the lane side, which would be the CAPS vendor. So we are creating connectivity to the mirrored copy of their database. So we will be looking to create a series of reports that will give our Easy Pass operations group the ability to get a window into how the vendor's performing on their portfolio of KPIs. The IT risk assessment, as I believe I mentioned this last quarterly update, it was really an enterprise risk assessment. About 28 interviews, I think, were conducted. That actually completed on 9/12, was presented to the audit committee on 9/12. The purpose of the risk assessment really is to just do following the COBIT framework to give a risk score associated with areas that, if they scored high enough, would be candidates for audit. What I plan to do, Mr. Secretary, is next month is our cyber briefing. I was going to take some details of that just because it's some sensitive information into that update. So I will have a presentation ready for that. Since this was not an official audit, we did not have to do management responses. But what will happen is the audit committee will have to determine, or the audit team under Paul Trelance will have to decide how they're going to schedule the audits that came out of that. The table that you have in your packet is our major initiatives. I'll just run through them. Our HR Central, we are moving along there. We've completed some additional sprints, some QA testing on several of our modules. We continue to move forward with a lot of the different areas, the build out of that system, some counseling and police formal written counseling with end users and deployed to production, letters of counseling, with the ERU letter. We also handshake with HRIS, which is the source of truth for all of our PIN information. And so with some of the PIN swapping that's going on with our recruitments, older PINs are swapped out as we complete recruitment so that the dating is kept up to speed. We're doing some handshaking there with HRIS, and some logic is being changed to get that in a better way. Also updated missing emergency contact information. The next one is our web-based appointment scheduling system. That is currently on hold. We are working on authentication with our TransCore team, which is the customer service vendor. They will be getting into the appointment scheduler. The purpose, as I mentioned in the last quarter, we will be posting the results of folks' appointments that they create to the appointment scheduler into their account in EasyPass. So it'll be a nice one window for when the customer service reps get in. There's two-factor authentication required for the Salesforce platform, so we're just working through that. Once that's completed, probably by next quarter, I'll have an update on what the next set of updates to that system look like. Excited to say that the Miss Utility, which is also built under our Salesforce platform, has been moved over to the Lightning platform, which is the latest one. That's a major accomplishment because we have all of our products now are moved over to Lightning. That's the latest and greatest from Salesforce. That's the current one, and they are in the process of decommissioning what was considered to be their classic platform, which most of our stuff was written on. Moving along, the Maximo Spatial, we've completed some work on spatial configuration documentation. We have started our sprint meetings. We did a demonstration because the spatial component of Maximo is going to interface with our GIS system. So we did a demonstration of the way that those two systems will communicate back and forth to the core team. So very excited about that. Our open text platform, which is where many of our other applications, our file scanning, our purchasing card system sits, that is a major upgrade. We have started user acceptance testing, so we are engaging our end user community to just basically come in, work on the new platform. It's a dry run of all of the things that major functions that they do in the system and reporting any issues there. We did finalize the database cluster for our production environment. All of that infrastructure has been turned over to the implementation team. I feel very confident we're going to be in the target of our 10/30 go live. Next is our Dynamics upgrade to the 2018 platform. Most of the work there that we're doing right now is focused on the payroll interface. Since we use the projects module of SL, that payroll interface is key because it contains all the rate information for all of our employees. That's probably the biggest thing that is in front of us right now because that has to be completed in order for the 2018 product to go into production. Alongside of that, we also are working with our finance team. We've created some guides for them to use when they start going through their testing of the system, walkthroughs. There's some custom screens that were in the older version that we're analyzing to see what that functionality would look like on the new platform, if it's a redevelopment effort or if we're going to adopt how the new system handles that. The next project is our HRIS replacement. I know that the kickoff was delayed. I did get word that the actual kickoff happened, I believe, about 3 weeks ago. That is the shift of our HRIS system, which is on the mainframe, out to a cloud-based version of that system. It's the same product. They're calling it a lift and shift, I believe. So taking it off the mainframe and out to the cloud. My understanding is that it did kick off. They're working through that statement of work with procurement and legal. I would imagine that's probably for all of the terms and conditions to make sure that we can adopt that language. The initial schedule was set at 58 weeks. There is an effort to reduce that. In speaking to the Assistant Secretary, Diana Rosberg, Mr. Secretary, they mentioned they want to compress it to 26 to 30 weeks, I believe is what the goal is there. The data center enhancements, that went through our PRG. So very excited to have that phase completed. The next phase will probably be advertisement. So I feel very comfortable we're on schedule to get that awarded and to have that work completed. That's a major update to our power and cooling systems inside of both of our data centers, the ICC and JFK. And then finally, the clearinghouse project, as I mentioned, that's for the commercial, the CDL holders that MDTA has. That's in a planning phase. I will have more updates at the next quarterly meeting. I didn't put it in here because it hadn't happened yet, but I also wanted to mention that the annual financial statement audit has kicked off. So we met with Clifton Gunderson, and there are several deliverables that we give to them. It mainly surrounds our financial management system, access and things like that. We also talk through our disaster recovery plans, our last tabletop, those types of items. So they gave us a window of 2 weeks. We kicked off last week. We've already started those uploads for the collateral that they need to complete that. We will comply with that and be on schedule. And with that, Mr. Secretary, I'd be happy to take some questions.
Any questions or comments?
Just one question for the Dynamics upgrade. So I presume 2015-18 corresponds to the year?
It's a great question. It's, I don't know how they do it, how Microsoft does that, but we certainly will be expecting like a 2021 version, which would make it seem like we're way behind. I think that when they announced 2018 availability of it, it was in that time frame. Remember, Rosen, but the 2015, what happens is there's so much overlap that the 2015 was not sunsetting until I believe this year, next year. So 2018 would not sunset until probably later in 2028 or something like that. So the product's announced at the time of the announcement. I think it just corresponds to the year that the product probably was developed. I do believe that is the last version of Dynamics that they will be releasing 2018. I don't think they're going to have a future product release. We have to keep a close eye on that because it appears Microsoft is trying to migrate that product to the cloud, but the cloud model does not contain the project's side of the house that we need, which is why we use that SL version. So we have plenty of time. We'll get live on 2018, but then we will have to put it on our radar over the next couple of years to make a decision what we will be doing there. And I'm sorry I don't have a better answer, but it is a funny.
No, and that's basically what I just wanted to make sure we're going to the latest and greatest. It sounds
Latest
like
and
we
greatest,
basically
yes.
are.
Yep.
All right, good.
We were fully expecting a 2021 version, but we haven't seen that.
Ignore the label.
Right. And I do believe that the latest is in the cloud, so
Yes.
as much as we can prepare, that would be great.
Okay. Any other questions for David? Okay, if not, thank you, David.
Okay, I will see the board next month in closed session then. Thank you.
Very good. Agenda item number 8, Civil Rights and Fair Practices Socioeconomic Programs Update. Tina?
Good morning, Chairman Wiedefeld,
morning.
board members. Tia Rattini, Director of Civil Rights and Fair Practices, to give you an update on our socioeconomic programs. If you look at Table 1 for our DBE program utilization, project to date through the end of June, the I-95 interchange at Belvedere has been heavy in design. Construction as of June had not started yet. So we anticipate meeting that goal, but currently, as of that June date, there was no construction in those payments. The Nice Bridge replacement contract has exceeded the goal through June. The campus improvements at the Nice Bridge also exceeded at 24.02%. Our 3 A&E contracts, the Construction Management Inspection Services, AE 3049, has exceeded with 27.5%, and AE 3050 and AE 3051 are lagging a little bit. Going to Table 2 for the MBE program, as you can see, our MBE percentage by procurement category, we had a total of 19.72% awards for fiscal year 23. And Table 3 breaks out each procurement category by ethnicity group. Table 4 for the Small Business Reserve for SBR designated contracts, we are only at 0.54% and at 2.49 for non-designated. Table 5, our veteran-owned small business program, we are at 0.98% of the 1% state goal, so we're very close. And the breakout by procurement category. Table 6, I know that we went over last quarter, really has not changed. but our corrective strategies that, we are continuing to put in process.
Any questions or comments for T?
I guess my question is, since we put in the corrective actions, are you seeing an uptick because of it?
Yes, we are almost fully staffed, so that's a great accomplishment, and we are seeing differences with getting, reports in, compliance milestones. Yes, sir.
Other questions? Comments? Thank you, Tia.
Thank you.
Okay. Agenda item number 9, Audit Committee report?
Good morning.
Good morning.
The Audit Committee met on September 12th. We were informed at that time that the Office of Audit is on track to complete the 13 audits in the fiscal year 2024 audit plan. One is completed, one is in progress. We were presented with 2 internal audit reports. One was the risk assessment of information technology controls. The other one was the audit of promotional activities, and we were satisfied with the results of the audit.
Any questions or other comments from any board member? Okay, thank you so much. Agenda item number 10, Executive Director's Report. Joey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, Mr. Chairman and to board members. As I mentioned last month at our board meeting, September was going to be a busy month here at the MDTA. I'm very pleased to share with the board some highlights and some outcomes from the past month. On September 13th, the Division of Civil Rights and Fair Practices hosted a free development workshop as part of Doing Business with MDTA series continues. This outreach event had 90 firms registered. In the end, 44 did attend, but we're still seeing a lot of good engagement and interaction. A total of 36 MBE, VSBE, SBR firms attended, and a total of 8 prime firms exhibited. Delegate Gary Simmons from Legislative District 12B, Anne Arundel County, attended the event and commented that he thought it was a great event. We've already scheduled our 2024 Doing Business with the MDTA. They will be on Thursday, March 21st, Thursday, June 20th, and Thursday, September 19th, 2024. Also on September 13th, we hosted an MDTA job fair and open house at our MDTA police headquarters. I was able to attend personally and spend time with our team and engage with some of the persons that were coming in that were interested in applying. And there was such a spirit of engagement and friendliness amongst the whole thing. It was just so great. I had to share that personally. Over 130 individuals attended the job fair and the open house that day, and our goal was to share information with participants about job opportunities here at the MDTA. We could talk with any of our divisions and our police on both our dispatch side as well as our sworn side, and there was great interaction. Persons were able to apply right there on our computers that were set up, and we had so many active employees and volunteers that day that made it such a success. Many of the attendees spent over 2 hours or more, and they spoke with various members of our team and applied for multiple positions. Credit for the success of this goes to our divisions of Civil Rights and Fair Practices, as well as our Office of Human Resources and Workforce Development. The leaders and managers and team members in those 2 divisions were very key in its success, so I thank them. As if it weren't enough, also, September 13th was a very busy day along with MDTA, along with other MDOT modes. Attended the second meeting of the Commission of Transportation, Revenue, and Infrastructure Needs. The MDTA as well as MDOT modes provided the Commission with a review of their 6-year draft CTPs. I used my time to highlight MDTA's major projects in the CTP, our Fort McHenry Tunnel facility conversion to highway speed, all electronic tolling, continuing with campus improvements that Chief Engineer Harkness mentioned earlier today at the Nice Middleton Bridge, the Bay Crossing Study Tier 2 activities and progress of that project that continues, as well as our open houses that have been conducted, the I-95 interchange at Belvedere Road project, the I-95 Express Toll Lane northbound extension program, as well as the soon-to-start repair and subgrade of the rehabilitation along 695 and Sparrows Point. Also took a moment to remind the Commission that MDTA is financed by toll revenue. A few of the Commission members asked about MDTA's sustainability of funding given the large projects that MDTA have, both current and future. I repeated what I told the board last month, and given the inflammatory pressures, inflationary pressures. Wow. My apologies. Inflationary pressures, toll revenue attainment, mandated operating budget increases, and debt issuance costs. A toll increase will be needed by fiscal 2028. At the last board meeting, I said I would be back this month to update you on that topic regarding our future forecast inputs such as traffic and revenue, unfunded priorities, and we were hopeful of presenting that this month, but unfortunately some additional time is required, and therefore we're looking to update our board next month. In September, I mentioned we did conduct and host 3 open house events for the Chesapeake Bay Crossing Study Tier 2 as part of the NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act process. 2 were in person, 1 on Kent Island and 1 in Anne Arundel County in Broadneck, as well as 1 virtual open house were held between September 7th and September 14th. The open houses were advertised on the project website through our social media, as well as in newspapers and postcards and flyers that we were certainly handing out to constituents, community leaders, and elected officials. Postcards to the project emailing list, e-blast, and press releases went out as well. Open house materials featured a brief overview video of the Bay Crossing study, along with over 40 display boards providing information on the study. I was fortunate to be able to attend both of the in-person open houses and really appreciated the community engagement as well as the conversations and the very candid ones that we were having with our teams and with those attendees. More than 370 people attended the in-person open houses, and we had 223 at the September 7th open house in Broadneck High School, and then 153 on September 12th at the open house at Kent Island at the American Legion Post 278. The virtual open house was then held on September 14th and had more than 120 attendees tuned in throughout the evening, with a maximum of about 90 tuning in at any one time, and the 120 unique registrations for that open house virtually. More than 65 questions were entered through the Q&A chat line, and the MDTA answered as many as possible during the 1-hour dedicated question and answer period. For questions that the MDTA couldn't get to, attendees were encouraged to submit their questions via the online comment survey form on the study website. A total of 125 handwritten comment survey forms were completed at the 2 in-person open houses. Additionally, as of 9/18, we have more than 400 survey forms that have now been completed via the online survey delivery. In addition to the public open house survey forum, an online equity survey form was also posted online and on the study website. To date, more than 1,540 forms have been completed. The goals of the equity survey are to identify and learn the needs of minority, low-income, and typically underserved communities, and to consider these needs in the development of the Bay Crossing and the US 5301 Transportation Improvement Alternatives. Our annual CTP tour commenced with the Maryland Department of Transportation on September 19th by beginning with the chairman and other modal administrators in Worcester and Wacomico counties, and those will continue running through November 14th this fall. MDTA participates at all but about 3 of the county meetings, so we probably won't be at Washington, Allegheny, or Garrett counties this year. On September 9th, around 9 a.m. in the morning, I want to give an update about a project and an emergency that we had to respond to at the Chesapeake House regarding a leak in our water tower. It was discovered, and we notified the managers of the Sunoco and the Chesapeake House to shut down operations. MDTA teams were on site, and I'm pleased to say that the leak was repaired, and we were able to get the Chesapeake House back online by 9 p.m. the next day. A special thanks goes to especially JFK Division of Operation Maintenance 2 maintenance crews, as well as our on-call Office of Engineering and Construction staff for resolving the water tower leak in an expedited manner for Chesapeake House customers. And I've got to say thank you, Jim and team. I spoke with many leaders in OEC that weekend, and the responsiveness was impeccable, and it was first class. Certainly it shows with as quickly as we were able to address that problem and recharge and repressure that line in that water tower. I do have an update on the BWI passenger facility charge, or the PFC bonds. In that board resolution 2301, authorized use of up to $40 million from the BWI PFC facility improvement account and refunding bond proceeds of up to $100 million to economically refinancing cash defease a portion of outstanding PFC bonds. On September 20th, a combination of $36.6 million from the PFC, the facility improvement account, and excess debt service reserve funds were used to pay off the remaining balance of the $43.4 million PFC Series 2012C bonds. Payoff of the PFC Series 2012C variable rate bonds improves our debt service coverage and eliminates interest expense and the costs of remarketing agent and a bank letter of credit. The refinancing of up to $100 million is deferred due to the rising interest rate environment. Future refinancings will be market rate dependent and will require a subsequent board resolution. Future new money PFC financings will be aligned with capital needs that exceed available facility improvement fund reserves and annual PFC emplacement revenues. The September 23rd Susquehanna River Running Festival, an annual running event that crosses the Thomas J. Hayden Memorial Bridge under an MOU that we have with Hartford County and the Maryland Transportation Authority, unfortunately had to be canceled due to the forecasted wind and rain conditions that were that day. Unfortunately, the rain, and particularly the wind forecasted for that early Saturday morning through Saturday evening, it would have been through the duration of the event. It really disrupted the ability to utilize the Hayden Bridge safely for the 10K and the half marathon courses. The difficult decision to cancel this year's Susquehanna River Running Festival was made in partnership with many emergency services, medical, and law enforcement partners that are required to keep the participants, volunteers, and staff out of harm's way. September 23rd also marks the autumn season and summer officially ending according to our calendar, and I wanted to share back with the board a summary look of the summer Bay Bridge traffic. During the 2023 summer season, Bay Bridge experienced the highest volume of traffic since 2019. The bridge carried nearly 250,000 more vehicles this summer than last. The most popular days to travel the bridge this summer were Fridays and Saturdays, with an average of nearly 95,000 and 92,000 vehicles per day, respectively. I want to thank the entire MDTA team for their work over the summer season in maintaining bridge operations, servicing customers, working with our modal partners, the State Highway Administration, and operations and law enforcement, working hand in hand day to day to respond to emergencies when they occurred. Also, in some kudos I want to give, on that September 23rd, I was able to visit and work with a couple of facilities that were in proactively for the weather event, and fortunately we fared very well considering, and it was really good to see the preparedness of operations for our equipment, our materials, our tunnel facilities, as well as the leadership present. It's a good dress rehearsal to go through those, especially as we're still in our hurricane season in Maryland. Some other kudos I want to mention. Kudos to our Chief Financial Officer, Deb Sharpless. She was just named as Easy Pass IAG. That's our interagency group of all of the Easy Pass entities and authorities and roadways and DOTs that work together. She is again chairperson of the EMC, the Executive Management Committee. I want to thank her for her leadership here at MDTA, as well as in this group in such a large national footprint. The vision of the IAG is to continue being a preeminent electronic tolling program that advances interoperability throughout North America. So thank you for your leadership, Deb. And I want to thank all the board members. This concludes my remarks for September.
Any questions or comments for Joe? Before we adjourn, any other issues that anyone wants to raise? Before we adjourn, I just want to reinforce, obviously, our number one priority, safety. And tragically, you know, for this year, we're heading at potentially a death rate of almost 600 individuals, which would be the highest we've had since 2007. It's a national trend, obviously, but we need to continue to reinforce, slow down, pay attention, and buckle up, right? Because those are the three biggest ones that drive fatalities. As you may have seen, the Lieutenant Governor's formed a committee to try to address some of these issues. Some of the things we are starting to roll out. So, for instance, at some of our construction zones, we're doing analysis of them, but we'll be dropping for instance, on the Beltway, we'll be dropping the speed limit to 45 during the construction, and we'll be doing much more active policing of that, for instance. So I just, you know, again, I think for the toll authority and obviously for the toll authority police, thank them for everything they do, but we've got to make, particularly in the work zone area, but you know, everything we can do, we should be doing, but we've also got to continue to get the message out to the public, you know, so anything that obviously members of this commission can do would be appreciated. So with that, and any other comments or comments? Okay. With that, there's no other agenda items. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, Member Carroll, for sticking in there. That concludes the meeting of the MDTA Board at 10:56. Thank you so much.